Welcome to Silent Command Stream. I'm here with Taylor Brownfield, newly selected conductor of Phantom Regiment. Taylor, just tell us your name, where you're from, all that stuff.
All right. Thank you for having me, Samuel. I'm Taylor Brownfield. I'm originally from Ruston, Louisiana, but now I live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I attend LSU for music education.
Awesome. Okay, and what drum corps are you with this summer? Tell us your corps history.
Okay. I was a drum major last year for the Louisiana Stars Drum and Bugle Corps, which is open class. And this year, I'm one of the conductors for the Phantom Regiment Drum and Bugle Corps out of Rockford, Illinois.
Rockford, Illinois. Okay, cool. So tell us about Louisiana Stars a little bit before we get into Phantom. What was your experience like there? How did you try out for them? Kind of just give us the rundown.
The experience was great. I knew a lot of people because most everyone was from Louisiana, but we did have some out-of-state people as well. The staff was were great to us, and I would say I actually auditioned there in 2016 for drum major and got cut. And so I decided to come back and again audition in 2017 and finally make it through. And it was great, because a lot of the kids, it was their first time being in drum corps, and they progressed so far, and it was just inspiring to me, to keep on going with this activity.
Whoa, okay, so you got to be in there with some probably younger students, right? Mm-hmm. What was that like? And kind of how did your age compare to them at the time?
Mm-hmm. I was definitely on the older side of the group, and so for me, it was kind of like we're reminiscing back to high school, I guess you could say. So it wasn't very threatening to have a vet who was so much significantly older than me, because the vets that were there were a year or two younger. There were a few that were my age or maybe a year or two older. So
even though they had been at the Corps longer than you had.
Yes.
Okay, so how did you feel after you got cut that first year?
Oh, it was bad. I mean, I was really hurt. I mean, that's just how it is. I really wanted it. I'd watched videos, conducting and talked to some of their past drum majors and, what should I prepare for in that audition. And I just went in there, and I don't think I did the best that I could have done. Nerves kind of got to me a little bit too much, and I just didn't have the experience yet because I had only been drum major for 1 year at my high school. So it was very reasonable, for me to get cut because the other person that was chosen did have more experience.
Absolutely. Okay, so did you make it far in the audition process, or do you know how far you made it?
It was kind of it was just a 1-day audition process, and they never cut anybody. They just said at the end that they would let us know through email who made it through. And I think they may have had one more audition camp, but I don't think so. It was just they named 2 people, and that was it.
So was there ever a moment where you're like, man, I'm not going to do drum corps, this dream is over?
After I got cut, for about 3 days, I was definitely kind of in a depressing state, but things, ended up better for me that summer anyway. But there are times definitely during the summer when I think, why am I doing this? I'm putting all this work. Does it really matter that much? And then you get to finals week and it's of course it matters.
So in 2017, you were thinking those things, the year that you were drum major.
Yeah.
So you're just man, well, and we'll kind of get into the first year in just a minute. Okay, so
okay, sorry about that.
No, dude, it's cool. So the next year rolls around. 2017 audition season rolls around. What are you thinking going into the 2017 auditions? Were you confident, or were you still kind of shaken by the cut?
I was very, very confident because I talked to the head drum major from 2016, and she was coming back the next year. So I had a conversation with her on the phone for a good an hour or so, 2 weeks before the audition, and I just familiarized myself with a lot of that staff and those members. And so I would go in there knowing these people and not just be thrown into something that was unfamiliar to me and uncomfortable.
So you kind of took some steps outside of just the audition weekend to get to know people and kind of get them to know you too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, go ahead.
I think that's definitely a very vital part to all of this. You have to know a lot of these people and get to know them well. And of course, you have to be good at your craft,
yeah,
whatever that is. But definitely putting a name to a face during an audition is great as well.
So they can say, hey, I remember this kid. Either he was here last year, or we talked on the phone, or the drum major told me about him.
Yeah.
Okay, so
definitely.
How did you go about finding their information? Because I get a lot of questions from students. They're like, I really want to be a drum major at Bluecoats, but of course we don't like having a formal audition. And I just kind of end up, I'm like, well, try contacting somebody, try finding their email. What did you do specifically?
It's crazy, but Facebook does get you in contact with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it was through Facebook, and I also talked to some people who I knew were in drum corps and just kind of went off from there, like, hey, I know this person. I said, okay, well, let me talk to them. And then they knew this other person that got me to the person who I wanted to really know. And it was funny because I ended up, meeting the auditioner for the drum major position at Louisiana Stars about a month before the audition, just through social media. So that definitely helped,
Whoa. Okay. So you met them through social media and like sent a message, or what did you say?
Yeah. I just said I was interested. I'm interested in auditioning. What should I know? What should I be prepared for this audition? And they kind of just laid it out there, and it was great. I mean, they were very nice. People are very approachable in this activity, even though it may seem they're not.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You exactly said what I was thinking. I feel like a lot of the times people think, oh, I don't want to come off as needy, or I don't want to look like that desperate band kid, and they kind of don't send that email, or they don't reach out on Facebook or Instagram, and then that connection is missed. And just sure. I guess kind of the worst thing that can happen if you send an email is they don't email you back. Like, they're not going to see the email and think, oh wow, this kid's bad, I'm not going to let him be drum major. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I can say from experience, I was in that person's shoes. I was the one emailing and asking. So I'm just helping someone out.
And it worked out.
Someone helped
me.
Yeah.
Okay, so rookie year at Louisiana Stars, you move into spring training. Just walk us through that first year. What was your rookie year like?
I would say that it was, getting to know the activity, what happens, all these slang words like EPL and all of that.
So what does EPL mean?
Eat, pack, and load. It's what happens before a show, or if you're traveling to a show. And it was just really cool, getting to have an experience that was different from high school band, and just becoming friends with more people who love music like you do.
Hey, yeah, Stars is really up and coming a lot, and you kind of got to get in. Wait, now, was this their first year in open class that you were there? Or no, I'm sorry, was 2016 their first year?
It was their first year to go to DCI open class finals.
Gotcha. Cool. And that kind of put them on the map. My dog's about to bark.
It's okay.
Hang on, I'm gonna close my door.
All right.
Hey, sorry, Tyler. We can edit, of course.
Of course.
So cool. So you go to Louisiana Stars first year. How did you feel? Like, what was your greatest strength going into the season? Something you felt good about?
I guess what I felt good about was positive energy, giving off positive energy to core members. And they definitely like that. And being able to be personable with someone and being able to talk about their life and not just, okay, we got to think about this next block and what we're doing. Just that's what a lot of people, I think, may miss in drum corps, or that aren't in it, is like, a lot of this is talking to people on a personal level and getting to know them on a personal level on breaks. So the break time is when you make most of those connections. What are some, I don't want to say you plan out every discussion, but like what are some ways that you kind of approach people, for people that are listening to this interview? Like, how do you approach people? Like in the drum corps? Yeah, or just like at lunch, in the meal line, or how do you go about doing that? Well, rule number one is that people aren't going to talk to you until you start talking to them. So you just as being the drum major, people know who you are, and you may not know who they are. So it may be sometimes easier for us, but then again, we may be a little bit intimidating to some people inside the drum corps, so it may be harder to break the ice to certain people in certain sections. But as far as like just saying, hey, great job during the block, I noticed that you did such and such very well, and just start from there and just saying, okay, where are you from? That's what a lot of people like start. It's like, hey, where are you from? Are you in high school or college? If so, what school do you go to? And then just kind of goes off from that.
Okay, so just, kind of like icebreaker questions. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Mm-hmm. I guess I feel like rookie year is really intimidating, especially from the non-drum major standpoint. Like you come in, and I'm just like a third trumpet player. And then when the drum major comes and talks to me, how do you think that makes like a corps member feel,
Oh, well, I think a corps member definitely, if they didn't think they were a part of the ensemble because they're new, they definitely have a purpose because, the drum major got to speak to them and told them that what they were doing was great and to keep it up. And I think that's definitely something that everyone needs, definitely during the low time in drum corps in the activity.
Just like being noticed is huge. Being noticed.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we talked about a strength, and I think that you're very good at talking to people. What was something that either you didn't feel too good about going in, or something that you realized you were underprepared for during the season?
Definitely working the Met.
Okay, working the Met.
Yeah, I didn't have too much experience with that, and so that was a little difficult. I didn't necessarily have to run the Met that much last year with Louisiana Stars, so this year's still a little bit shaky as well. And that's another thing. If you don't know how to run a Met, know how to run a Met.
Okay, so like let's dig in. Like specifically, what were some things where like did they say program this loop, and you're like, I have no clue how to do that? Like, what are some specific things?
Definitely, you have to program the metronome before the block starts.
Yeah,
and make sure there's some techniques as to don't take the battery out at certain times, and or when you're replacing it, or to know when it needs to be replaced, and so it doesn't die on you. And actually, it gets down to so small that where your fingers are placed, so you don't actually accidentally hit the start button when the staff members are talking, and then they get mad at you. So
is that not the worst when that happens?
Oh, for sure. Or when the metronome changes settings and instead of making the bing sound, you hear the voice.
And everybody laughs.
Oh, yeah. And then I think that for me, that's more nerve-wracking than conducting because just, a slight adjustment on the metronome is a wasted rep.
Yeah.
So.
No, absolutely. It's it can be sorry, somebody just a notification popped up on my screen. Anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right. Like, it did it again, and
it didn't.
No, sorry. So yeah, you're right. Like if somebody steps off a count early, it's not good. But if the metronome pulls out a count early, like the whole rep is literally screwed.
Mm-hmm. And a drum major can like do a wrong pattern, but he can get back on.
Yeah. Really
quick. So.
But and I don't know if this was true at Louisiana Stars or Phantom. Like if you pull out the Met early, or you pull it out when you weren't supposed to pull it out, you don't need to punch back in because you're probably going to be out of time. Is that true?
That's for sure. Yeah, that's definitely true. Unless you're coming like into a new section, or if it's like maybe 2 counts and you can get right down with the downbeat.
You can somehow swing that in.
Yeah, but then again, that's even like kind of scary, like because then time is lost already.
Exactly. So for our viewers at home, like what we're talking about is a scenario when, say, you're running the Met. And there's supposed to be a tempo change, but you miss the tempo change. And you say, I missed it, but I can still punch in, bam. But then if you punch in off of the drum major's hands, he's going to hear it late. Or if you go off of the battery, they might be out of time with the battery. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong.
And then you begin to startle members and the drum major, and then they lose their focus on what they were doing. So it's probably best not to. And actually, that happened last camp that one of the people that were running Met forgot to come in, and so I just conducted through it without the metronome until the next section where the tempo change was.
So if you're on the if you're on the metronome side, say you miss it, what's the best way? What's the best thing to do?
Just wait to come back into the next section, and I mean, the drum major may be like, "Hey, I understand," or just heads up, work on it. But I mean, people won't remember that the next day. So
yeah, most of the time mistakes are easily forgotten.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not something to beat yourself up for.
And absolutely. And then, so you kind of mentioned this. If you're on the drum major side of that, like you're conducting and the Met doesn't do what it's supposed to do, what do you do?
I definitely look back. Or the drum major, would definitely kind of be startled, but like, okay, realize that there's a problem. Just keep going. Just maintain professionalism and being calm. So.
Word. And one thing that I think they said at the drum major summit this year is, no matter what, as the head drum major or the conductor, you don't want to get mad at the Met runner.
Oh, definitely not.
Because that's the hardest job in band.
Yeah, the whole ensemble has to respect that person because they're there, and they don't get to wear a uniform or be a part of the show, and it's definitely a humbling experience. As to, I know someone who was in that position, and, it's tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess some places, like I did Met my rookie year, but I still got to conduct. But I know at Phantom, there's like 3 conductors and then 1 Met person that doesn't conduct the show, right?
That is correct.
Like a rehearsal assistant?
Yeah. And it switches kind of, I think it switches every now and then. So like usually there's what you call a Met tech or technician, and they just go around and help where they're needed.
Cool.
And sometimes, the third drum major or any assistant drum major will jump on it if needed. So it's good for every conductor to know the Met as well, not just rely on the Met tech.
No, hey, and let me tell you, that's bitten me in the butt. Like there were times this past year I'm like, oh, I'm the head drum major, I don't need to know how to do Met. And then Colin and Graham both got tied up, and I had to go with the battery and run the Met. I was like, oh shoot, I better know this stuff. I better have the programs down, even though you wouldn't think I would need to do it.
Yeah.
So that can be tough.
And I think it's best if you can to get every drum major to have a metronome. Just to like, okay, we need a Met, get it out of your bag, because I bought one and all 3 of us have Mets, so you can find them pretty cheap. I bought mine for like, I think $70 or $80. So
like you got a DB90?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's a good deal. Maybe eBay has cheap DB90s like used.
Yeah. And I just like kind of searched on the internet, and there was this like crazy like music site that was kind of like an eBay but for musicians, and lo and behold, there was a cheap one on there, so I bought it.
Hey, I have mine right under my bed. It's like the monster under my bed. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Mine's the monster on the desk.
Yes, I love it. That's going to be the cover photo of the YouTube video, is you holding the Dr. B. I love it. Okay, cool. So let's get into Phantom. So you did your rookie year at Stars. Were you thinking about going back? And then how'd you decide to go to Phantom?
Yeah, I mean, I had created great friends there and thought about going back. But before I got into Louisiana Stars, I attended a Phantom Regiment drum major camp the summer of 16, and just that's always been in the back of my mind. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna audition there. If I don't get selected, it's okay. I can go back to Louisiana Stars and still have a great time. And so I made it at Phantom Regiment, and it was definitely humbling. And it's been humbling because they may look all glorious in the pictures and during the shows, but there's a lot of stuff that just has to get done
as a conductor.
That's not the funnest thing.
So kind of walk us through the audition weekends, like what all happened there.
Okay. Yeah. So all the auditionees come in Friday night, and we go into specifically a band room, and we have a clinician who goes over a packet that Phantom Regiment has made about conducting and literally teaching the basics of conducting. And we were supposed to come to camp prepared with one piece to conduct, to kind of showcase, I guess, our abilities. And so we go through that packet of basic conducting on Friday night, and then most of Saturday is conducting our prepared piece to the clinician, and they give us a rating, and that goes all the way until dinner time. And right before dinner time, they tell us who is selected to go on to round 2 of the audition. And round 2 is basically conducting different patterns and styles next to the other auditionees and see who meshes well together, and also a sight read piece that we have to conduct on the fly in front of not only the clinician this time, that they bring in other staff members as well.
Okay.
And they observe. So
that's scary.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Okay. And so you say sight reading.
Uh-huh.
Tell me more about that.
Okay. I guess I'm sorry I didn't elaborate.
No, it's okay.
So the Friday, with that conducting packet, we're given a piece of repertoire. This happened to be orchestral. It was Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony, the finale, and we had to conduct a piece, a part in the piece, and that was only for round 2. So we all had to prepare that within Friday night, going into Saturday evening.
Okay.
And had to be ready. Everyone prepared that, and they were thinking if, say any of them made it into round 2. And so round 2 consisted of those staff members coming in, conducting patterns, and also conducting that that piece.
Gotcha. Okay, so then let's talk numbers. So how many people showed up to this camp, and then how many made it to round 2?
Mm-hmm. Ooh. I think we had 35 people that auditioned altogether. And I want to say they picked around 11 people to go into round 2. So the majority was cut after round 1.
Yeah.
And things were getting a little,
heated.
Yeah, definitely. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And because, you realize, okay, you're in round 2, it's like, wow.
These people are all good.
Uh-huh, yeah, for sure.
Dang.
And so round 2 is over, and they cut it down to 6 people. And they let us know Saturday night after we've all conducted. And they made us go in and out of the discussion room a bunch of times. It was like, okay, they told me this, but they're like, okay, bring in the next person. And it was just a lot of anticipating. And so they put us in 2 groups, and I guess just knowing how auditions work, the first group to go in was the group that was cut.
Really?
Yeah. So when they walked out, I had kind of, since knew of knowing what happened. And then they let the second group going, and they told us, you've made it to round 3, and round 3 will consist of a interview. And so they said, but first we want to do a small interview now. So that was definitely not said in the packet. Yes, that was not expected at all. And so they took us all out after they had cut those people from round 2, and they asked us 2 questions. And that was just with the clinician. That had no other staff members in there at the time. And so that went on, and, we all kind of questioned, is there like another cut they're going to do tonight after that? But there was not. And so we went Sunday into a very stressful day. Sunday was definitely a stressful day for all of us.
Yeah.
Going into that 3rd round, and the interview was definitely, I guess, intimidating, because, you're in front of 5-6 staff members. And
was it just you and the staff members?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was in the hot seat, and they were all, talking to me and facing me. Also, the corps director was there as well.
So what were some of the questions that you got asked?
Yeah. One question in particular that I remember is that they asked, as you being a rookie drum major coming into the Phantom Regiment, how would you deal with a veteran who may be the horn sergeant or a section leader and just doesn't agree with what you're doing? And I just told them, I would maintain professionalism and speak to them on those matters after rehearsal, definitely not during rehearsal. And they were, all of them just like gave out their questions, bam, bam, bam. Like one person said a question, I said the answer, then the next person, then the next. And it was kind of funny because they're like, okay, now I want you to get up there and go to the back of the band room and start calling out commands. And it's like, oh, okay. So we're doing this like the 1980s or something. Yeah. So I got back there and said Corps 10 Hut. And I think there may have been another one that I don't remember. But I just remember that one, having to yell that one pretty loud, just to say, hey, I'm loud.
Like I can project my voice, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And so I was kind of unsure what that was all about. But I was like, okay, well, then maybe there is a possibility that I can make it through if they're looking for me, to call commands.
Right.
I was like, well, maybe they're doing that to others too. So I was like, they're just probably making everyone do that. But then I came out and the next person went in and everybody's sitting right next to the door pretty much. And so like I heard no one else say any commands. I'm like, I wonder why they did that. And so
probably a good sign.
Yeah, it was definitely a sign of hope.
Yeah.
And so when all of us finished our interviews, we just all sat out and it felt like an hour of sitting and waiting for them to decide. And it was just, but it was a great time for all of us auditionees that made it into the third round just to get to know each other and, just say, hey, no matter what, we all made it to the third round. And it's like, it was definitely something to be proud of.
Absolutely. I mean, that's probably the most competitive conductor audition in DCI.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I would say that, but then again, I don't know. I haven't auditioned everywhere.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I got cut from Phantom, There you go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I didn't make it as far as you did, obviously. Okay, so we're almost out of time. So heading into 2018, what are you excited about? What are you maybe nervous? What are you working on right now?
Definitely excited, just to be around this great tradition of past, not only conductors, but members of the Phantom Regiment, and just knowing a lot of people that went through it and received so much value. And I think that one thing that I'm definitely kind of scared about would be, calling commands in front of a whole corps during like times of learning drill, because I'm not very familiar with that. I mean, I did it a few times last year, but as far as the wording and being able to read the staff's mind during block is something that I'm a little bit hesitant about, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, so again, to all of our viewers at home, so like what Taylor's talking about is a lot of the time in rehearsal, like learning drill or running that, you, one, have to give really loud verbal commands. And I guess, like you said, you would think that belongs in the 80s, but we still do a lot of it, not so much to say like mark time hut, but just to say, attention, here's the chunk that we're doing, and here's who's playing. And then there's like generally check, adjust, stand by. And those commands do still exist, right?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you have to learn the drill somehow, and they would rather a young kid be doing that instead of them who are older people,
Yeah, and
killing their voice.
So you kind of end up being the one that's in control of the pacing of the drill learning. Even though they'll be the ones that are like, hey, we need to do that again. You're still the one that like paces the check, adjust, stand by, and tells them when to reset. And there's a lot that you're really in control of.
For sure.
And I guess they were testing that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I think that every staff member has their own way of doing things. So that'll definitely be something to catch on to in any situation. So it just comes with anything. It comes with time. Doing it.
Well, okay. Last question before we have to hit the road, Taylor. Tell us something that for students that are maybe in high school now or want to try out for drum corps, something that like you wish you had heard when you were in their shoes.
I would say that having a consistency of practice, and because that's a big thing. Like, many people may like say, okay, I want to be a drum major or conductor of a drum corps, and they're into it, so they conduct for a day, and then the next day they're like, I'm not feeling it today. No, this is for anything. You have to be consistent with your practice, and starting early does not hurt.
Yeah,
and that being months before the audition,
not just weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So starting really early and consistent practice will definitely help you, and knowing people within that drum corps.
Sure. And get in touch with those people. Like, don't be afraid to reach out, because they're not going to be mean to you. Word.
Oh, I totally agree.
Well, thank you, Taylor Brownfield. We're excited to see where you go, and go Taylor. You're one of the rising stars, man. We're excited for you.
Thank you very much.